why is everything so expensive and yet people are so poor?
You have a system by which money is lent into existence. That system where money is lent into existence has to keep on increasing what we call money forever. In other words, debt, which is money, has to increase forever. And debt binds us into a debt trap, into a system of essentially slavery. We have never lived in a free market. We have no pattern recognition in our brain of what a free market is. When we say capitalism and say we live in a free market, but capitalism distorts money, it's more like communism. It's crony capitalism. We pay taxes on a system, but the taxes are only the top part of the pyramid. The big part of the pyramid is the theft that comes in money.
This conversation with Jeff Booth is going to completely change the way that you think about money. We discuss how money today is actually debt and how it is lent into existence, why prices in an economy are inherently designed to rise today, and how that system steals from you quietly every single day. Jeff touches on why every problem is a money problem and why incentives don't allow the current monetary system to fix itself from within. This is part one of the highlights from our conversation with Jeff Booth on our live show, Memes and Markets. Let's dive in.
Keith, how are you, man? You're muted, buddy. Want to start? How you doing, buddy?
Ben, today's the best day of my life, man. How you doing?
Today's the best day of my life because we actually have someone who was one of my dream guests for this year, Jeff. So not to toot your horn too much, but when we started our year, we set a list of our top 5 dream guests, and I had recently read your book, so I included you on that list. So I'll throw it over to you so that you can give the quick 1-minute introduction to who you are, what you do.
Well, number one, I'm honored. So thank you and pleasure to be here. Simple answer is I started off as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur all of my life. Couldn't understand why everything I was building and everything tech wasn't reducing prices. When tech was moving so fast, technology was moving so fast. So I wrote a book called The Price of Tomorrow that described the world we lived in versus the world we should live in, and what would happen as that conflict happen. And that book is everything. If you read it now, and it was written 6 years ago, you could see the last 6 years perfectly. You can see the next 6 years perfectly. You can. It's a structural change we're going through, and that took me into really learning a lot about Bitcoin, how it could possibly be a change in a structure to a different world, and then now I invest my time on top of that. I run one of the largest venture funds on top of Bitcoin, investing in what's coming.
Amazing, yeah. So I actually said that yesterday, Keith. I said that we had to look up the date in which you published your book because I was like, if this was even a few years ago, all this stuff was spot on. And it was 2020, right?
Yep. 2020. Yeah, 2019, the pre-release came out, in early 2020, the full release.
So, Ben, I would love to let you guide this first question because I know
I can definitely do that. So I was saying to Jeff before we started, because I've been a long-time consumer of Jeff's content, and I'm at the point where I'm hitting his natural audience, like crypto, nerd people, that's me. So what we're going to try to do is bring you to there with us. So the first thing I want to ask to you is something that I think everyone can feel, Jeff, and that is, why is everything so expensive and yet people are so poor?
Yeah, and again, this is some of the stuff we're going to talk about. Why it's so hard to understand, at least the first time you hear it, is because you live in a world that's always been imagined. You live in a structural world that you're measuring that from that structure, and all of history doesn't have a different version, right? And so your entire world that you believe, capitalism, whether it's capitalism, socialism, all the isms, are from an environment constructed from essentially where money is lent into existence. And so if money is lent into existence, if what you call money is a piece of paper that somebody has a right to lend into existence and you pay an interest on that, then what do they get out of that? Right. And so that's how money comes into existence. You have a system by which money is lent into existence. That system where money is lent into existence has to keep on increasing what we call money forever. In other words, debt, which is money, has to increase forever. And debt binds us into a debt trap, into a system of essentially slavery inside that system where prices have to rise. Because if prices went down, then that debt would collapse, and all of the banks who lend you the money and all of the other people who lend would go insolvent, and every single other thing from that system would fail. So we live in that system. We've always lived in that system, and that system has to extract more and more and more and more forever. It has to make prices rise. But here's the thing and why this is so hard to understand is because we're measuring everything. We are inside that system, measuring everything from that system, and it just appears normal. And we don't have a mental map to why is that normal? What would a different normal look like? So that's the system you live in. Everybody lives in, if you're measuring from any currency, US dollar. And so just before that, some currencies lose value faster than others. And we look at those other currencies that lose value faster than others and say, how are those people measuring in that currency? Those crazy people. Well, we do the same thing in our currency that's just losing value a little less slowly or a little less quickly. Okay. So it's almost, and so now you have, hold that thought, and now insert this thought, which is going to be really hard for you to insert. The natural state of the free market is deflation. Prices must fall. And I'm going to explain that a little more deeply. Why must they fall? Because everything that all new innovation competes with what was there before. So any new entrepreneurial venture, any new idea competes with what was there before. And if it doesn't provide us more value, we're both the creators of the new things and we're the consumers of the new things. And if it doesn't create us more value for us, we don't use it, and it fails in the free market. And then we use the things that create more value for us, and we use them faster and faster and more value and more. And so the output of what I just described has to mean prices fall. Is that fair?
Totally.
And before we go on, let's hold that thought.
Totally.
And let's, I think one thing that'll be super helpful is to provide a specific example. And whatever maybe comes to your mind first, but for me, what comes to my mind
I'll give
is,
you a specific example.
Cool.
We used to buy calculators. Everybody had a Texas Instrument calculator. And there were all these versions of calculators that were produced and really expensive. And then Apple created a phone that you could have in a calculator as an app. And the first calculator cost money. And that company that created the calculator made money from an app that was just digital, just code. And then the next company said, I'm going to create a better one for cheaper, and a better one for cheaper, better one for, now all calculators are free. You don't use a calculator, you don't pay for a calculator anymore. Your life is enriched by a calculator. Where is the calculator in GDP? It doesn't exist in GDP. It's gone, but you still have the value. You have abundance of calculators, and it's free, right? So your life got better because of the innovative process of people competing to provide you value, and you using the more value. So you don't have to pay for a calculator anymore. You could choose to, but very few people choose to pay for calculators anymore.
Totally.
And so but those examples are everywhere, right? Everywhere. It is what the market is, right? You used to buy a record. You used to buy a CD. You used to buy, and now you see more and more content. You see more and more music, and it costs you less and less all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the world is competitive to provide you value. You use more value, and the output of that is prices fall. So why do some prices fall but other prices rise? And so you can see these inflation maps with government spending, food prices are going up, healthcare prices are going up, insurance prices are going up, anything touching the government, education is going up, and all the free market is going down. But all of those things are measured through the same currency, right? So your TV, you said another example, you get a better TV every year and it costs less. But even the TV, what would it be valued if the money wasn't broken? The TV would have fallen way faster. All of the things would fall way faster because the prices would have to in a free market. The price. So what does that drive into? And this is where it takes your breath away. We have never lived in a free market. We have no recognition. We have no pattern recognition in our brain of what a free market is. When we say capitalism and say we live in a free market, but capitalism distorts money, it's more like communism. It's crony capitalism.
That'll get a lot of people pissed off there.
But it's true.
Yes.
I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you what's true.
No,
right?
I agree with you.
And we can, and people can yell all they want, but they can say, you can objectively tell yourself if the natural state of the free market is deflation, and in that market, prices fall to the marginal cost of production. You could look this up on Google. You could look this up is this true? Would this happen in a free market? And you can guarantee what I said is true, which means we don't live in a free market. We never have. We've always lived in a zero-sum game. And that's what takes your breath away. And that creates this conflict in our minds where we want something to be true, but it's not.
Totally. Yeah. And I went to business school. And so every textbook that I ever read would basically reiterate to me and every other student in there that inflation was natural and needed. So we're not only fighting people's view of their day-to-day life and what's said on their TVs, but like so many people's livelihoods are tied to a system that is inflationary. So how do you break through that when it sounds like when we talk about these things, it sounds like you're talking about like a fairy tale world that can't possibly exist, because how could that be possible when every textbook says to the contrary?
So that's so remember when COVID and all the experts said that this is going to kill everybody, and and everybody needs this a belief system with the experts reinforcing a belief system creates a belief system that everybody believes, and they do crazy things to support that belief system. How many other things, if that looks like that, look like that in the world? And you can see when that belief system is being challenged by other things that can't be true. Jeffrey Epstein, the wars that are going, how politics looks today, that control system has to look like that, because all of the money that feeds it is coming from theft from you. It has to look like that. And what we think is it's not us, it's somebody else. So there's somebody else that's going to fix it all from a system of theft. So when you just described that, and what I went to naturally, because my son's going through university right now, and he's telling me the stories of what money is from his economics class, and he's going back to the teacher, and the teacher doesn't want to hear it. So he says, I have to lie on my exam, right? So I get a good grade, but I know for sure it's wrong. Now, if money, and this is where it's that you conflate two different things. And if money, so what is money to you, right? And very few people ever ask themselves what money is for them. If money is a debt instrument that's lent into existence, and that's what money is to you, then all of the religious doctrine around economists is true. because if you allow deflation from a debt instrument, that money collapses. It's zero. So if money to you is a system of debt, then they're right. But why is that money is a deeper question.
So why is it like that? Where's the starting point for this?
The starting point traces back to the Bank of England funding wars, right? And the Central Bank of England funding wars, and families saying we'll fund the war and we'll create the debt to conspire with the government to fund the war
in perpetuity.
In perpetuity. And that system of money is still the money we use today around the world. And so nothing's changed.
To drive the point home more, because you mentioned something that I think is something that people could viscerally feel with the Epstein stuff, all of the censorship, control, the desire for more and more of that. And you said that in a system like this, if it was like this, that would be the natural outcome. Could you explain why?
Yeah. Because the two systems are completely different, and I think we should dig into the fairy tale part of this too, right? What you said too, because it seems like there's no way that could be true. Why is it true, and what could you do to make it true? We should go into a lot more, but first we'll start with where you just asked. So if the natural state of the free market is deflation, then and we know that's true, then anything that stops that must not be a free market. It must be a control system. And how does that control system gain more power? It gains more power through fear, control, coercion. It has to, because it's not the free market. Because the free market is the sum of our choices, creating value for other people. So if you lived in a truly global free market, now think about it, I'm going to jump forward a bit. Where AI is going. Right now, my former business, I had 70 engineers, 6 product managers to be able to create technology and the view to the future. And it was back and forth to create great technology. I now can do technology. I can vibe code, even though I don't have a bit of coding experience. I can vibe code things like what I used to build in an instant, idea to execution. If I can do that, it means 8 billion people can do that. What do you think that would do to ideas? They won't all work. Those ideas will create tons of value. Some of them will be just useless ideas. Some of them will be brilliant ideas with no employees to create that value. What would that do to, and if they had no employees and no cost, they could bring down the cost lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and they're going to be competing with these other companies with all of this cost. What will you use? The thing that gives you more value at less cost, or the thing that costs lots more? You'll use the thing with less more. So we're both the user and the creator of this, and 8 billion people on the planet. Right now, we live in a spot where AI is the worst it will ever be, by far. And that unlocks 8 billion people to be able to provide value to us. That means prices would fall at extraordinary rate, exponential rate in a free market. What does that mean for the market you live in? It means to keep the control system, you have to manipulate money, and you have to tell these people they need this other money, right, to be able to live a good life. And those people will vote for give me more money because all the prices are rising from that system. And so it'll get worse and worse and worse from that system, without them realizing that it's the system itself. It's not a person within the system. It's a system problem that cannot be resolved from the system that creates the problem. Every single problem, and we should do this right now on the podcast. Name a problem that you think can be resolved from a system that requires money to be manipulated. Because if you create more pieces of paper, everything in relation to those pieces of paper have to rise in price.
That's something that we say all the time is that I think almost every problem is a money problem. And then people typically go to they don't go to money itself as a concept. They go to the allocation of the current money is usually their first argument of like, if the money was over here, the problem would be solved, et cetera, and so forth. So when you get hit with that, what is your response?
I go back to first principles. Natural state of the free market is deflation. We don't have to be coerced. We use the things that give us more value. There's a massive competitive system to provide each other more value, and everybody wins by it. When you distort that system in favor of a control system, then you have to choose who wins, who loses. And so if you think about the nature of the world today, it's so crazy. We pay taxes on a system, but the taxes are only the top part of the pyramid. The big part of the pyramid is the theft that comes in money that we don't have a vote for. So when we're voting on what new government will give us, but we don't see the bottom part of the pyramid, how much is stolen, what would government look like? Of course, it would look like what you expect government to look like today. What it would look like is this: these people are my people, or these people are my people, and it would just be a division of everyone because it's exactly the opposite of a free market. Because remember, it's not from. You shouldn't be measuring inflation from zero. You should be measuring inflation from the productivity rate in the world, which is exponential deflation. Right. In other words, if you did nothing, your life would get better every day. Your life would get better every day because of the sum total of the competitive landscape of the entire global human population working for you rather than trying to extract from you.
So I think that the natural place people would go to who have won, especially in a capitalistic environment, would be, okay, then what's everyone going to do all day? Sit on the couch and eat bonbons? Like what? How do you keep the turn going?
Okay, so let's investigate that again, first principles. Number one, it doesn't matter for the truth of what I just said.
Totally.
No difference what other people are going to do. So I can imagine a whole bunch of people who control the system. Oh, we're going to create more control so we can give them something to do, right? So we can protect the stupid people, right? We'll get, so I can imagine a whole bunch of people inside that, but it doesn't matter. It's a crazy question, but the free market always finds value. We always find something new where there's always going to be problems. And in other words, the calculator app, if you use that example, why would you let the fall to zero? Because what would the calculator manufacturers do?
Fair.
Right? It's crazy. The abundance gained is us freeing our time. That's what technology is supposed to do. That's what our innovation is supposed to do. We are supposed to free our time. So instead of working for 40 or now 80 hours, people toiling away at jobs that are going to be gone anyways. Remember, the jobs are going to be gone anyways. When 8 billion people have the ability to do this, right? It doesn't require all of the jobs. The jobs are already gone because you won't use the company with more jobs.
True. So because it won't be as good of a service.
Exactly. So what are you going to do is a crazy question in that. What you want is your time back. What you want is, instead of the time theft of your labor going into money that's being devalued, so you're constantly stuck on a hamster wheel forever and ever and ever, you want your time to be valued so you can spend it with people and things you love and come up with ideas to be able to serve humanity rather than be in this control system.
Wait. What you just finished watching was only part one of this highlight from our live show Memes and Markets, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. But this conversation gets even better. Hit that like button and subscribe and click here to watch the second part of this highlight.